We're here with Adam Broitman, partner and ringleader of Circus, straight off the stage at IAB Mobile Marketplace. Thank you so much for being here.
You're very welcome.
You were here talking about some multi-channel work you did with Red Bull. Can you give us a little sense of what that project was and all the touch points it reached?
Sure. So the project was called Red Bull Augmented Racing, and the idea was that you can take a 12-pack of Red Bull cans and set them up in whatever you imagine to be the perfect race track or race course. So you set them up, then you take your mobile device and using computer vision, or as we call it, advanced sensor fusion, because it uses many senses in the mobile device, you can scan those cans, and then we take the data, it uploads the data, and it creates your own racetrack based on what you envisioned with your design of the cans. Then beyond that, it becomes a social racing community. So you can race the track at 2 o'clock, and I can go in, and I'm not just racing against your score. We actually record your race, and we depict that with a ghost car. So when I'm racing, I actually see a ghost of your race, so I'm racing against you. So I can kind of be on your tail and have to chase you, and it gives me that extra incentive. And then if I beat you, you'll get a push notification saying that I beat you. And there are a series of leaderboards to see best designers, most active, fastest racers. So we can literally go back and forth, like say on Scrabble or any of the social games. We can go back and forth all day racing on a track that I created with a product from a brand, all in this ecosystem of Red Bull.
What was the actual assignment that Red Bull gave you that led to this big project?
Right. So Red Bull came to us and they wanted to create a game pack where the 12-pack itself was the activation point. And Red Bull, and I said this on stage, Red Bull is probably the most cutting-edge marketer that I know of, because they inherently do some of the things that a lot of people aspire to do. And they had this notion that they wanted to make their 12-packs into a game piece. And basically it was, the directive was, I don't want to say that loose, but it was basically that. And they came to us and we took a little time and we came up with an idea, and we came back and we said, we're not sure if this is exactly going to work, but this is what we want to do. And being so forward thinking, they said, sure, well, let's have an R&D period where you take some time to learn about whether or not this is actually possible. And I don't think I've ever had a brand say that to me before.
What would you tell another marketer, another agency who want to work together to create such a big project? How would you tell them to start conceptualizing it, building it, defining the scope of the project? What would you advise?
Right. So I think that within our industry, one of the big problems and one of the things that hinders creativity is creativity has become a commodity. Ideas have become a commodity. A lot of times people don't want to pay for the idea. They want to pay for the execution. Therefore, the advertiser or the ad agency can actually put their best resources towards their best ideas. Now, as a small shop, and we see this over and over again, but as a small shop, we're able to put our best resources into coming up with the ideas at this point because we are a small shop and we want the business. But I would say that for advertisers, you really need to appreciate the power of the idea more and potentially invest in ideation, which a lot of times does not happen. And it's kind of sad because you see flawed execution simply because the idea wasn't sound, not because the execution was flawed. And that becomes problematic. And as we move forward as what I like to say is a product-based marketing company, we create products. Moving forward, when we're talking to potential clients, we're actually beginning to say, we need a month paid for our time, not for anything else, but just for our time to come up with these concepts for you. And then we'll give them to you. So we don't own the IP. We don't own the intellectual property. That is owned by Red Bull, but that takes time and costs money.
So you go to them and say, we need this period for thinking. This is how the scope of work kind of needs to flow in terms of, but I'm still wondering about kind of how you manage within budget and time when you're recreating a wheel, if you know what I mean.
So there's a common product management process called stage gate model. And basically the stages consist of the doing, and the gates, which follow the stages, consist of the analysis and checking off of, did we do what we thought we would do? Did we do it on budget? And what is the cost if we kill this whole thing now? So with having a design phase, client invests a minimal amount in designing the concept, proof of concept, making sure that this thing is viable. And if it doesn't feel viable to them, they can kill it and save, well, a lot of embarrassment and also a lot of money. And what they have learned is that that direction that we wanted to go in is not a viable direction. So it's not a failure in terms of the project. It's actually, for very advanced marketers, they would see that as research and insights into the types of initiatives they should be working on.
Also, I know that you've also done other augmented reality campaigns, and I'm wondering why that's a good solution for marketer needs, and also how you take something so specific to mobile and integrate that into the larger brand messaging, the larger campaign.
Right. So we are not an augmented reality company by any means. I don't ever promote augmented reality. It doesn't matter to me whether or not people use augmented reality. The benefit of using the computer vision element of augmented reality allows for a greater palette for creativity and initiatives. And we come in at the problem as what are we trying to solve for, and how can we excite consumers in new ways. So there is an element of new and technology that hasn't been used a lot before that allows us to be very creative with it. But it's not the technology itself. It's the objectives and what we're trying to achieve and trying to surprise and delight consumers in new ways. So we know we're not going to do that with a flash banner ad. Maybe 10 years ago you could have, right? And people 10 years ago did say, we need some great flash banner ads. That is not a technology that surprises and delights anymore. Augmented reality is one, and we tend to paint with technology. That's how I like to say how we create. We paint with the technology, whatever it might be.
When marketers come to you for your product, what are they generally asking for? And are you able to meet all of their expectations?
We're never able to meet all of anybody's expectations. I'll tell you that right now. They
keep the bar acceptable.
Yeah, you know, it's generally that marketers see something we've done and come to us and say, we want one of those. And when they say we want one of those, well, we say there already is one of those. We can't give you one of those. It's owned by someone else. But if you give us some time for this design phase, we'll give you something that suits your brand and your goals that will be just as impactful. And generally speaking, you know, I'm a good talker, I like to think. I can generally get people to give us a chance. And I can't always convince people that we're the right shop for them, but we generally get a chance to show them what it is we can do and how we think. And with a limited engagement, we can come up with an idea that is right for them. And, you know, we can't always come up with the right idea for all brands. We've done very well. We've only been around a little over 2 years. So we've done very well in our first 2 years of coming up with the right solutions. I don't think we've come up with the wrong one yet. We'll probably do that in the next couple of weeks after this interview, but it's certainly not possible to do it all the time.
Great. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.